Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes or Less, a podcast from Birthday Cake for Breakfast. I'm Andy Hughes, and for episode 35 we jump back in time to late 2024 when we had the pleasure of interviewing the incomparable Warmduscher. A proper motley crew, Warmduscher have been ripping it for over a decade now, releasing 5 full lengths that dabble in sleazy funk, raucous post-punk and bleary-eyed disco. In early November 2024, a week ahead of releasing their latest record, Too Cold to Hold, via Strap Originals, we caught up with the band before a headline show at the Ritz in Manchester, squeezing into a room backstage with Clams Baker Jr. and Ben Romans Hopcraft to talk about the new record, public opinion of Warmduscher and much more. The record features a number of brilliant guest spots, from Irvine Welsh to Lianne La Havas to Confidence Man's Janet Planet. But we also touched on a few dream collabs that have eluded them, like Grace Jones. Can you imagine? As is often the case, interviews ahead of shows come with certain challenges, mainly location and time related, and as such you'll hear quite a bit of the awesome power from support band Hot Wax, who were sound checking at the time. There's a healthy amount of random people coughing and doors being open and closed too, but hey, Ben and Clams were good sports throughout and they projected well, but do excuse the extra noise. If you like the episode, let us know. Follow us on your favourite streaming platform and follow Birthday Cake for Breakfast on all the socials. Right, on to Warmduscher. Enjoy. Manchester tonight, and it's been lovely to see the growth of Warmduscher. We're at the Ritz tonight, and it's almost like, going from the rubble to the Ritz, because we've seen you at the Soup Kitchen, wild show, and then to come to the Ritz tonight, it seems like a huge jump. And Manchester's always been really kind to you, Do you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think Manchester's usually really, really good for us. It just feels like it works. People get it quite easy, and I think we've got quite a good relationship with, as a lot of bands do, but with Mark Riley and stuff like that. And we always feel to be honest, I remember when we played at when we did that really small pub. What was it called?
It was after the session, after the
Is that
radio.
Salford.
Yeah.
The Eagle Inn, and that was I remember even doing that, and people were there. I felt really hyped up, and that was the first time we played a way that I felt really we were in the zone. So it's nice doing sessions with Riley and Salford, playing there, and it's always felt quite homely for us for some reason. Just because that combination.
Second homes.
But those drums are fucking fat.
That lad is hammering that fucking drum set. When you're going from Mark Riley's and playing this pub that's 80 capacity or whatever it is, to then be watching telly, as you've said, all day on the bus, how does it change with the setup and the prep when it comes to playing a show like this compared to playing Soup Kitchen or the Eagle Inn?
Well, I feel that's what kind of was saying earlier a little bit, we play mainly when we're going to play those kind of venues, we usually end up just hanging out in the pub all day and stuff like that, which is cool, but it's I feel these ones will feel a little bit more added responsibility, but it's nicer in a way, because I think it's about it being your job really a bit more, rather than before it was a little bit more jobby, which is, I'm welcoming that. That's to get to a point,
where you've got to grow up and get a job. We just I think also as well, we used to the set used to be a little bit based around us being quite hammered, to be honest. We were not it was an essential function, but it works. The chaos of the earlier kind of stuff worked with that. But I think now it's the music, I feel it's a little bit of a lack of confidence as well. We weren't confident to perform that kind of music a little bit more straight. I think now we're so used to doing the set, we kind of grown in confidence a bit, and can access the performance without having to live it every second of our lives, what I mean? So a bit of that too, I think.
And all of us are used to playing on all different stages as well. So it's so it's good. It's transition is usually easy, or not easy. Sorry, it's the wrong word. But it's not a freak out.
Yeah, it feels and the songs are a bit more complicated, there's a lot more stuff going on now on stage. So I think if we're really like a bit spent, sort of physically or mentally, you really feel it when you're on stage now. There's a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah.
And obviously, those 3 p.m. trips to the pub before every show has changed somewhat, like you say, and you're not caning it all the time, but like you have all got like, you know, kind of individual styles when it comes to like your presence on stage. So like individually, like how do you prep for, you know, like when you're about to go through the curtain now that it's less about, you know, getting caned and more, Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like I just visualise. Everyone has their own little things. Like Blue, the drummer, likes to kind of run around and get all like what's that Sesame Street drummer called? I don't know.
Animal.
Yeah, it's like that vibe. And then like I just sort of go very like I just like to visualise the first couple of songs and what it will look like in my mind to do. Yeah, it's my personal thing.
Yeah, same. Just energy. Like try to hype myself up. Yeah, shadow boxing. Anything. Yeah, get ready just to get it in the movement. Yeah.
And that with like, you know, like building off the energy and like the vibe, the crowd always seems to come along with it, you know, wherever you are. But have you ever like had to contend with that where it's like you're having to G up a crowd?
Yeah,
just like,
all the time.
Yeah.
Like most, to be honest, most of the time we have to sort of sell what we're doing. I think because it's quite a hard task to just ask someone to access like our world musically. Like it's not like you know, like if you go to a club and it's like all night, it's very quick and fast and it happens very immediately. And also it's not like it's crazy as the music seems. A lot of the times our kind of music is actually quite slow. Like it's not actually like it's not like kind of was thrashing it out like the whole thing is just like undeniably like listening to, I don't know, like the OSTs or something. Yeah. It's like you kind of have to, there is a sort of lean to it that you have to kind of lean yourself into it a little bit. It's not the most obvious thing just to start running around to and stuff. So we're always trying to sell like the brand of the music because it's kind of a lot of it's based on kind of like sort of groove and like kind of resting on the beat rather than actually kind of going crazy. So yeah, there's always like a sort of warming process, and I think it's also like the music provides a lot of options for people. Like you can kind of go crazy to it, and you can also just like nod your head along to it. So it's not just like it seems like it would be always a bit crazy, but it's always quite mixed because the music's quite like that. So yeah.
And do you find as like, you know, as you say, it's not like 100 miles an hour,
yeah,
like Dwyer and Co or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you find that people's impression of you does kind of change when they come and see you live compared to like what they might hear on record?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, our shows always have a lot of energy, and I'd say, right? Yeah. So it's like you get what you listen to on the record, but we do it, you know, an extra step when we're doing it live, and that's just natural. Comes for the vibe of the crowd, and it's just what we do. We like playing what we play, and confident in it.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
And obviously with coming back to Manchester, you've got a new record. Talking about Mark Riley earlier, I thought it was funny when he was saying, because the record's too cold to hold, and he was like, hold what? Do you like the ambiguity of like, you know, having a record title that you can just be like, it's called this, and have people go to it in whatever?
For my end of it, always in lyrics and everything, I like people to make their own mind up, because you know everyone's got their own perception of what things are and how they feel, and you know, would never want to get in the way of that unless they're feeling something horrible. But yeah, it's definitely that, like, put into it or get out of it what you want. Yeah.
I thought it was funny as well, like I wouldn't read it myself, but I saw on your socials that like they'd put you in the Sun newspaper for something or other, and were basically saying that, you know, you weren't this or that, and they basically like pointing the finger at you. So like, was it kind of wild to have that as well, to have bloody the Sun, you know, talking about you guys? And
it was kind of like a honour really to be to sort of offend them.
Yeah,
felt like a bit of an honour.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
it's just another point. Them getting something wrong, as they always, you know what I mean, and reading into something wrong, and it just shows. Yeah, it's great. We've done our job.
I'd hate to be honoured.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I say. Put it as simply as that.
Yeah.
Like if they start selling copies of the Sun downstairs.
Check out this new great band.
Yeah. We've done our job.
But like, so they touched on, you know, lyrically they were saying, can't believe there's this band from down south who were saying about, you know, I've got friends, this and that, you know. So like, lyrically...
Or like standing on the corner with a gun in my hand or something. It's like...
As if I'm...
It's kind of... It's like it's just an idiom song about like hustling, like drug dealers hustling in a sort of neighborhood or like lifestyle, which is a fantasy about kind of almost like a yesteryear. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then they somehow thought we were sort of promoting violence in our sort of society.
No.
It's just like just a pure lack of interest in art, basically. Yeah. That's kind of all it sort of suggested to me.
It's more about throwing the hands up and being like, whatever, you know, you live your life and go with it. You know, I'm sitting on the corner with my hands in the air looking like it's surreal. It's what you were saying before about like getting out of it what you want to get out of it. So they obviously took it literally because that's the way they think. So it's
more like a kind of like a gesture of like it's like a kind of mantra where like trying to just like a freedom of thought thing, isn't it? Rather than
just like we're all in this fucking ship. Let's do what we do. Be good, do good, get good.
Yeah. And like lyrically, turning to you, Clams, like, do you love to inhabit that sort of character, you know, like you're saying about this?
Yeah, 100%. It's like, it's all character stuff, and it's all, you know, for me, my end is getting inspired by different things, and whether that be a person I meet, or a movie I see, or a song I hear, it's all that, you know, it's just expression, and looking at things in our way as a band, you know, and make your own mind up.
And the record itself, so I read it's the first one that you've self-produced, having, you know, worked with Hot Chip and Dan Carey in the past. So how was it, you know, having that freedom to, not that I'm sure Hot Chip and Dan Carey were, you know, aggressively prohibitive, but like how was it having that, you know, freedom to self-produce?
I loved it. I mean, for me it was like, but like coming around of like natural amount of time doing music and being involved in it, and like there's just so many people in the band that have talent of either sufficient ideas that are explorative or enough to kind of feel like there's ground to be made up on finding those ideas. And we've got people like Quinn, who's amazing, a wizard in the studio, and you know, I do a bit of production outside of doing my own music too, and you know, so does Marley and Adam as well. So yeah, it's just kind of like, it just seemed like a no-brainer really. Like I would say that I was leading the production, but it was really like it was more a vehicle, me producing to allow everyone's ideas, if they were any that would progress the song, to be heard in a way which is transparent rather than distorted by like a kind of construct of something that's outside of the band. Just didn't think that was necessary at this point. So yeah, I think it was just a matter of like believing that we can make good on our own intentions, so that's good enough, you know what I mean? We don't need someone else to sort of make us second guess and a massive array of ideas that we already have, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think we just wanted to, if it was, we could get on with it a bit more quicker really as well. Yeah, kind of it.
And obviously this record compared to the last one was out of COVID, and you know, where you're able to do more than just like hang out every other week or what have you. So how was that again, having that sort of freedom to just be together and to, you know, not have to think about like being prohibitive as such?
It's cool. We just had like 2 weeks, didn't we, in the studio?
In the writing? In the studio. Yeah, recording. Yeah.
Well, we actually spent, me and Clams spent loads of time together in our we had like our own studio. We just did loads of writing, like, yeah, and then we just kind of, yeah, it was really like, it was more like workman like, really, wasn't it? It was more like we'd meet up in like, you know, like the morning, work till about 5, go and have a pint, go home, kind of thing. Like, it felt very like, this is us going into work kind of thing. And it was nice, man. Yeah. The other one was a little bit more of a kind of party, like, world's gonna end, let's just do some fucking crazy sugary, like, we were like, let's just fucking realize all of our dreams, you know? Yeah. It was almost like kind of like it's almost like an existential experiment, like the last record. Yeah. Because we were so like, let's just do that, we can do that, we can do that, and do that, like... like
nothing matters. Nothing
matters, like, and then this one we felt a little bit more like, kind of got back to like on the clock almost a little bit. And then we just had 2 weeks to do it in the studio, which Marley sort of sorted out with his dad had this really nice studio which we were able to work in, which was for probably like, we got a good deal in it, so we could spend a nice time, really like long period of time in a really nice studio. We never really had that before, so that was a nice experience as well. Yeah.
And obviously you had Abbey Road as well for the mastering, was that?
Oh yeah, that was from us. That was cool. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that was really weird actually, like going in there, because it was just so like, what has happened to this band? But in the best way possible. That was a kind of surreal thing. It was cool, man. You know, yeah. You feel it. We did like a 360 kind of mixing in there as well, which was really cool. Like some Apple thing. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, some like cool little opportunities that came out. So yeah, it was good, man.
Were you at any stage like thinking, you know, like looking over your shoulder because it's like such a grand, like...
I mean, like, I just felt very like, you know, you're walking into a place with like tourists outside of it, looking in to go and mix a Warmduscher album. I was just a bit like, I just find it quite humorous, really. But they're amazing there, and it was cool, man. It was cool. Yeah.
And with the new records, you know, you touched on it before, like the exploration that, you know, you felt like you could go to different places and such. Obviously that gets stuck in press releases for like albums all over, but like, was that genuinely a sense within the band that you were able to hit on things that you might not have been able to do before?
Yeah, totally. I feel like in a way this album, we wanted to, it might not sound like it like on the initial listen, but once you get your teeth into the record, I think you'll hear like quite a lot of going back to some, I mean, I'd say like for the main body of the album, there's a lot of things in the kind of backbeat beat and the rhythm and the kind of intention of like the way that like the kind of bass and guitars and drums interact, which is a lot more similar to kind of Warmduscher of old actually. Yeah. But I think we were kind of trying to kind of work out a way of harnessing like the same intention that we always had, but in a slightly different way. But it's like, so genre-wise, it seems a little bit shifted. But I think we were kind of returning to some core like essentials of like the band in a way. I hear it a lot. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like it. Like, it doesnn't sound like we recorded it in like a tin can or something. Right. Yeah. But it's still got that kind of interaction and interlocking that I think is quite core to like original Warmduscher essence, I think. So yeah, in a way, like kind of there's a lot of returning in the record. Yeah.
And did you find that yourself, you know, like a bit of that, like say less tin can recording wise, but like more of like a kind of return to what it was, but also a bit polished?
Yeah, no, it was just like we were allowed to do whatever. Not that you're not allowed to do in the other cities, but we could. There was nothing. It was all up to us. So I like that. Yeah, it was all. There were no questions, or there were a lot of questions, but we had to answer them ourselves, or you know what I mean, or situations and stuff like that. We just had to get through it. Yeah.
and like something a bit different. Although you've had it in the past with like Cool Keith and Iggy Pop, but like there's been like some collaborative stuff on this record as well with Janet Planet and Lianne La Havas. Her song, her spot is great. How was it, getting those together? And is it right that like a few of those were just from meeting up at parties and just like having the chat with someone and having the crack and then being like, do you want to guest on the record? And
I feel like the guests were like, I don't even know if we wanted to get that many guests on.
No, it just happened.
It just happened. Like it was like we were like we were basically like, I don't know, like a lot of the things we were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if? And then we were like, oh, should we just call this person? And then a lot of it was like, if we knew like a female vocalist who could sing, who would it be? And then we'd like, out of all of our friends, we'd be, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, like, and then like with Janet Planet, it was like, we were at a party and she was like, I was being really, which is untypical of most sort of musicians at parties, I'd say, I was actually reluctantly trying to not play the music at the, like late at night, and she said, no, let me listen to it. And she just got a mic and started singing over it like in her own world, like it was her song kind of thing. And I was like, that's fucking cool. I was like, we'll put that in then. Like, you know what I mean? She's like, oh yeah, okay. So a lot of it was more like an exploration of just like sharing music and like ideas with friends, and then it just manifesting in like something which is actually in reality, really. So I think, I think that's the main thing that's great about doing music is if you're open to, just like not always being rivals with like other people in music, and actually seeing like the beauty in having a relationship with other people that do sort of credible or interesting stuff, can actually use it for your own advantage rather than your own kind of animosity sometimes. I think there's a lot is made of people shit talking on other projects or whatever that's happening, but for us, we mainly, we're such a like, we've always had to work for every penny we've got in this band. It's always been such a like slog in a way which is not like not enjoyable, but I think we've never really been particularly competitive with anyone because we've always had to do it off our own backs anyway. So we've never really been, our success has never really been based on anything else but us trying to do what we do. Like, do you know what I mean? So we're quite grateful when other people want to collaborate with us or something like that. We don't, So
I like the idea as well that Janet Planet sounds exactly as you'd imagine she is. She just grabbed the microphone and started spinning on the spot.
Totally, She's incredible, man. She's like a force of like nature in terms of like her energy is always so positive and upbeat and like really, really just it's exactly, her music represents her essence for sure. So all of those Confidence Man guys, they're all like same. Really, they're like they're exactly like what they're like on stage, but in reality for sure. But in the best way possible. Like obviously there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek character work there, but it's just very like positive music, very relaxed as well, like not too like serious. And I think we're quite similar to that as well. You know what I mean? So
In terms of, obviously you said you thought what would be a great collab, and then you just went out and sorted it. But have you got any pie in the sky thinking of sort of collabs that you might want to do? I love
all the time. Grace Jones. We already tried that one.
Really?
Kendrick Lamar.
She laid down the fee and it was a little out of our
the Frankie Valli. We tried that one.
Frankie Valli.
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, I don't get out of bed for under $250,000.
You got to buy a ticket though, innit? Like things like that.
Tons of a lot of current people too, like Kendrick Lamar. I remember using him for. I like a lot of those guys. A$AP Rocky and all the old ones are kind of like gone now. So aside from, actually, another one I was thinking about though was Giorgio Moroder. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be an amazing collab. Brian Carpenter, even though he's like his soundtracks on like Escape from New York and stuff like that. I was thinking that would be amazing.
I liked what like Tizo Touchdown as well. That guy from LA who's like really absurd kind of. I don't even know what it is. It sounds sort of like an ACD meets some kind of like bizarre, sort of like kind of Cartoon Network, Adult Swim kind of like, like I don't even know what it is. It's crazy, but he's amazing though. He's just one of those people from like a different world of music that feels like he's from exactly the same cloth that we are from. Yeah. So yeah, just like to experiment with that. Yeah, he's definitely a contemporary guy that I would really like to work with in this band. Yeah.
I reckon you can get Moroder.
Giorgio
will do it, I reckon.
That would be amazing.
That would be crazy.
And then that'll branch onto Grey.
There you go.
You know, you mentioned Confidence Man sharing a similar, you know, sort of vibe, and I think that comes down to like the Aussie-ness, doesn't it? You know, like similar vibe to us, but like appearance-wise, it's a huge part for them, and it's a huge part for you as well. But do you ever think people just think that is what's on the surface is like completely with the band, and it's a case of they are just records who are, you know, in the pub like 3pm like we touched on at the start? And do you ever think that like you kind of get tarred with a brush, or do you think people have got over that now?
I feel like I think people are like kind of a little bit over it, but I think also like not this. So people are like, oh yeah, these guys are crazy, and I'm always just like,
we're not
as crazy, not any less crazy than I have to say. I've been in so many bands like in my life, and it really is like, I mean, like, sure, there's a lot of bands that would like, you know, we like to have a drink and stuff like that, but not any more so than most of the bands that do like to have a drink do, if that makes sense, you know? I get that there's a lot of bands that keep it very, like, chilled, and, like, a lot of bands are sober as well. I mean, like, a lot of us, like, go through stints of being sober too, like, you know, we're like... But I think because it's more convenient for people to think the worst of people, once you give them an opportunity to, generally that is kind of the way it sort of goes down.
Yeah, like... with the Sun column as well, I suppose it's what sells, isn't it? To like say, these guys are this, let's tar them with that brush. When the reality is,
I mean, we're not too far off from what we do on stage. I mean, aside from the obvious lyrics or whatever, but I mean, we're not far. Like, I don't know. It's not too far different. I mean. We are different people outside off the stage than we are in life, but not really that much, I would imagine. I don't know.
Like I think also as well, it's like a lot of people just like, I don't know. It's so whatever, but it's just like I think people once you get like a sort of, it's not the only rep that we have is because of that. It's because our shows used to be completely bonkers. Like, no one actually knows who we are as individuals. It's like most of the representation is just via the shows. And I think our shows in the first instance were just nuts. Like, we didn't really know, like, how to play, like, our songs. And it was like, we were just, like, making up on the spot. And that was part of the whole thing. But, I think we just learned that, like, essentially, like... that was part of the intention. Was to make people think that we were a bit more depraved than we actually were. So a lot of it is to do with but do you know what I mean? Like the initial stuff, like the artwork, like the real everything was just like it was so depraved.
We were just like
it was kind of it was more of like a kind of anti like establishment thing. To be honest, like it was a bit like because it was like a kind of like. Why do we have to prescribe to this kind of, especially bands at that time, bearing in mind this was quite a long time ago, like were very, like, it was very manicured, the way that you become a successful, like, guitar band, you know what I mean? So I think that it was very, like, intentionally trying to reevaluate, like, how, like, what was the sort of modes of sort of compliance that you had to be, like, had to, in quotations marks, to sort of be seen as a kind of distinguishable or worth listening to, listenable band. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it's to do with that kind of the art of kind of going, fuck you, we're going to do this, you know? And it made it quite exciting, and I think people just literally took it, like, completely figured it, like, sorry, literally, and a lot of it was, like, very kind of conceptual, actually, like, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people just go, oh, these guys are fucked, you know? And a lot of it was just to do with this kind of conceptual, like, attack on, like, sort of the industry and like what the modes of acceptance are within it, kind of thing. I think that's kind of a lot of it. But yeah.
And do you find that people maybe still are stuck in that?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think, you know, that's kind of just a natural part of like just, and in a way it's kind of like not nice, but it's not like, it's also just like part of like recognition. It's like, oh yeah, these guys do that, you know. At least people still remember what, you know, the essence of the project actually is, you know. So, and it's always, you know, yeah. But I think it's not fine, really. It doesn't bother me at all.
Everything you do is a progression, anyways. It's like when we started, like we were saying, it was very chaotic and very. We didn't care much about anything. We would do whatever we wanted because we were all doing it ourselves. And then once you start gaining more people going into you, then you say, oh, okay, actually now let's focus on what we're doing and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's just a natural progression of anything, I think.
And in terms of that, like we touched upon it before with the production of the record, and everyone's got their own things that they contribute and such. We spoke to your old drummer years ago, I think it was during COVID actually, and he said like because you all have backgrounds in so many different bands and you all have your own influences and inspirations and such, that you've got kind of like a freedom as a band to, you know, chuck anything into the mix and you don't have to like stick to a certain genre or mood. So is it kind of, you know, like liberating to have that, you can tweak genres and you can switch like and have a record be a whatever mood you want it to be type of record?
Yeah.
It is liberating.
I think that's the whole reason why I personally joined Warmduscher, was the opportunity just to kind of make up whatever you felt like. If it had this sort of specific energy to it, that it was deemed as acceptable within the world of Warmduscher. Like, whereas before it was always a lot of other projects require it to be a certain tonality or a certain kind of deftness that kind of would be like, this is what makes a such and such song. Whereas I think it was more about the spirit, and the spirit is the most important thing with Warmduscher rather than the kind of like genre or like technique or style, you know? Like, I think it's more about the spirit, and so I think in that it's way more freeing because you can kind of feel a little bit like less fear when you're writing, which is always helpful in art. So yeah.
And in terms of, you know, what we were talking about before, like it was a lot more rough around the edges and it was a lot more raw when you started out, but now we're looking at, because that was 2014, so we're looking at 10 years of a band, and you've had so many experiences, you know, and you did Glasgow and all sorts. Is it mad looking back at the Warmduscher that started out to the Warmduscher that sat, you know, backstage at the Ritz, or again is it kind of just like one of those, it's a progression thing, you don't think about it?
It's just a progression. For me personally, I
didn't even really think about it. I never think
keep
about
going.
it.
Don't look backwards.
Just go. And I think it's just about getting used to the idea that it's just your job kind of thing, isn't it? you know, like, but I think, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like, I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think to kind of think about it would be to miss the point about just like servicing, like, you know, like the whole point of it is just about like enjoyment and seeing where it takes you, you know. And I think to think about enjoyment is almost too self-indulgent, and you kind of become self-important, and then you sort of, your expectations become completely out of whack with like your reality. So it's just about enjoying like the ability to enjoy something.
And be in a situation, Clams, as you said before we started, where you don't even know what day it is because you're just zipping through and
off the bus. I love that, you know. I mean, life is, you got one shot at it, don't you, or whatever. It's an adventure. So if you can't get vibed up about that and inspired, and there's no reason to stop, and or not that we're not going to stop, but it's just always forward, always a forward progression. And just with life experiences, because it's what it is, man. It's what we do.
And that kind of, I imagine it's the cherry on top. But when we saw you at the Academy years ago, you said, we are Warmduscher and this is what we fucking do. You pretty much just said it anyway. But, you know, like, to live by that mantra, it does seem very much like you're...
Still do it. Still say it every year.
I try. Yeah,
it's quite good. No, to be honest, I quite like being reminded of that as well. It's like, oh yeah, we are real.
Yeah,
it's quite nice. It's quite grounding.
Yeah,
and you're like losing your mind playing gigs every day for like months on end or whatever.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is what we do. This is why we're here.
Yeah,
it's quite a lot. It's very easy to get a little lost in that sometimes. So. No, I'm welcome when you say that. Most gigs. Thanks.
Yeah, man.